see the Macho Man subscribes. Hello and welcome to Top Rope Culture. This is the AEW's Double or Nothing review. Let's begin! From the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, AEW's inaugural show Double or Nothing was going down, and they had the buy-in to kick things off. So let's get straight into it. The show kicked off with the Battle Royale, which, yes, it was a little bit confusing, but all in all, it was a very, very good Battle Royale. There was a few botched moves like that, not very good. One here truly looks like a chokeslam from hell. Ouch! It was good fun to see Tommy Dreamer looking as trim as ever, getting on the mix with a few hardcore items. And the final mystery spot went to none other than Hangman Adam Page. He charges in there and clears house like you would expect from the big name. Look, this was an awesome battle royale. It was stuff you would never normally see on mainstream WWE. Everybody here thinks Page has won, but they forget that MJF was still in the match. MJF thinks he's won, but he hasn't. Page comes back in, hell of a clothesline, over the top. Page takes the win and goes for the first ever AEW Championship match. The second match on the buy-in segment was Sammy Guevara going up against Kip Sabian. These two guys put on a hellacious match with some crazy moves. Great job. Great athleticism. Both of these guys have a very, very bright future in wrestling and in AEW with the moves and the display of skills that they were putting on. Ultimately, Kip goes over for the victory in the 1-2-3. And now we're full steam ahead into the main Double or Nothing pay-per-view, with the All Elite team coming out and kicking things off on the mat.
About to make history, each and every one of you. We use the word revolution because this is a revolution!
So the first official match for Double or Nothing is SCU versus the Strongheart. This was a fast-paced, brilliant match with double and triple moves that were just wowing the crowd. The crowd were very much into this match, popping big woos from the audience. It's a great way to kick off your official pay-per-view. These six guys put on a fantastic match. It was very back and forwards. I thought it might have been a bit one-sided, but it wasn't. I'm excited to see what these guys do in the future. Ultimately, SCU go over and get the victory. Great job. Next up, we have the women's triple threat match. First up in the place, we had Smiley Kylie Rae, a similar character to Bayley, but not a rip-off. Then we had Nyla Rose looking mean and badass with this mask here. And then obviously we had Britt Baker, who's been getting heavily pushed on the All Elite segments online. Brandy Rhodes comes out and says she wants this match to be awesome, or something along those lines. She spices things up by introducing a fourth competitor, and it is none other than Awesome Kong, who just looked like an absolute monster. For me, Kylie Rae was the standout star of the match. The crowd were really popping for her work. I felt the pace again was full on. Kong ended up out of the match after being speared into the steel chair by Rose. Britt Baker picked up the win over Kylie. Again, great match, lots of action. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So we're into some tag team action for the next match, and it was the Best Friends going up against Jack Evans and Angelico. Again, another action-packed match from the word go, but I was starting to think, is this too much? Is it too full on? I wouldn't mind a little breather, then build us back up into it. Now that was a little criticism because it was a very good match. And when you talk about AEW reinventing tag team wrestling and being the home of tag team wrestling, this was a solid match. Some great spots that you just don't normally see on WWE, and some fantastic tag team action. Ultimately, the crowd did get into it. It was a very solid performance. Great finish. The Best Friends go over for the victory. After the bell had rung, there was a good bit camaraderie with a hug. However, the lights went out and then these two guys appeared in the ring. The lights did go out again and then all hell broke loose. The ring was surrounded by about 10 to 15 guys in a mask. These are known as the Super Smash Brothers if you've never seen them before. With this many members, it'll be interesting to see what they do with them. Next up was more triple threat tag team action, but this time it was the ladies that have been big on the Japan wrestling scene. Now this match did just feel like a little bit of a filler match. However, these 6 ladies put on a hell of a match. It was great to see some wrestlers on US soil that you don't normally see, and there were some unusual moves, especially for the women's division, and I quite enjoyed it. Then next up we had Cody versus Dustin Rhodes. This was the match I was probably most excited about. During the start of Cody's entrance, it was zooming in on a throne that looked very much like the throne Triple H had at one of his WrestleMania entrances. Now it really wasn't very long at all before all of a sudden Cody's got a sledgehammer and he's making his way to that throne. Smash! And ultimately the throne falls to pieces. Was this symbolically ending the Attitude Era?
Well, that's a big fat yes, sir.
Next up, Dustin Rhodes comes down to the ring to a thunderous applause and a big reaction from the crowd. This was by far the best match of the night for telling a story. Both guys put in some solid work. Now on this replay, it was difficult to see, but Brandy hits Dustin in the head with Cody's cane, ultimately putting a nasty gash and busting him open. She then spears Dustin, but gets sent to the back by the referee. But by this point, the damage has definitely been done when you see how much Dustin is literally bleeding all over. This is one of the worst colour jobs I have seen in a long time. The crowd was 100% into this match, popping for every little Dusty Rhodes reference, like the Dusty Elbows. There was a lot of false finishes back and forth, and I honestly didn't know who was going to go over for the victory, but in the end, Cody picked up the win. After Cody left the ring, he came back in the ring, and because he had been playing the heel, I thought he was coming back in to give Dustin a harder time and a bigger beating, but ultimately he didn't. He asked his brother to be his tag team partner and fight the Young Bucks at the next AEW pay-per-view. This was emotional, both guys were teary-eyed. It was an absolute testament to the Rhodes family and everything they've done in and for wrestling, and I love this moment where Cody held the rope for Dustin. Fantastic match. To be honest, unveiling the new championship was the most disappointing moment of the night for me personally. Jack Whitehall introduced Bret Hart and Bret comes out with the belt and he cuts pretty much a standard issue Bret Hart promo, and he introduces Hangman Page to come down to the ring, whose Titantron is absolutely fantastic, by the way. It looks like a Hollywood Western movie. Fantastic job whoever made that. MJF comes out and cuts a fantastic heel promo, really sticking it to Bret Hart and bringing up the recent Hall of Fame attack incident. With that said though, he does get a bit of a beatdown, chucked in the crowd and taken care of, but then all of a sudden Bret's in the ring with the belt out, just parading it around to no announcement, to no here's our new championship. Bret's just got it out and he's just showing it to the world. But the belt looks $1 million. Then another highly anticipated match. The Young Bucks are going head to head against the Lucha Brothers for the AAA Tag Team Championship. There are no if, buts or maybes. This was clearly the straight best wrestling match on the whole card. This match was absolutely phenomenal, as in a pure wrestling match. However, it didn't have much story build up in my opinion, and if you are trying to get mainstream wrestling fans over from WWE to AEW, this might not be every wrestling fan's cup of tea, which is understandable. However, this is wrestling, and it's exactly what AEW said they were going to do about being the home of fantastic tag team wrestling. It was fast, it was skillful. If this was in the Tokyo Dome, Dave Meltzer would have given this 10 stars every day of the week. The Young Bucks picked up the victory and retained their AAA Tag Team Championship. Now on to the main event of the evening, Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega. For me, this match felt like a big pay-per-view main event. The match started at a more gradual pace and built up as the match went. The match did proceed to the outside of the ring fairly early on and had a street brawl, real fight, slugfest element to it and storytelling to it, which is understandable because Chris Jericho just can't do the moves or keep the pace like he used to, and has reverted to this style now, but it works for Jericho and it works really well with Kenny Omega. I thought when Jericho took the camera it was great. When Kenny Omega came over the top rope to the outside of the ring into the table taking out Jericho was fantastic. There was some really good solid work, and for a guy of Jericho's age he can still go. He's phenomenal in the ring, he will be a Hall of Famer. I just love the guy. Now there was a small botch towards the end of the match, but it really didn't take anything away from the match or away from the finish. I mean, by the end of it, these two guys looked like they had been to war. They sold it so well. It was a great match, great finish, and a fantastic first main event pay-per-view for AEW. Jericho got on the mic and cut a heel promo demanding the fans thank him for his contribution for his match and putting AEW on the map. Now whilst this promo was going on, there was a rising noise coming up in the crowd. That's because, holy shit, there's Jon Moxley, aka the wrestler formerly known as Dean Ambrose. He takes out Jericho to a huge pop from the crowd, then he goes in on the referee, another big pop from the crowd. The crowd is going nuts at this moment. He picks up Moxley, but they go to the outside of the ring and they are brawling through the crowd. They end up on the casino chips where Jon Moxley, Dirty Deeds Omega, takes him out. Now if that wasn't bad enough, he then proceeds to chuck him off the top of the chips onto the floor. And that is the end. An absolutely fantastic debut show from AEW and Double or Nothing. There's loads of storylines to go at. There's loads of plots that can develop from here. I'm really excited to see what is next. You've been watching Top Rope Culture. My name is Mike. Oh yeah, the Macho Man subscribes.